Have you ever had a dream about maybe one day conquering the world? It just seems so fantastically unlikely that such a thing could happen given how big the world is and how many different armies and how powerful everyone is. But there actually was one person who nearly did conquer the entire known world. A man that was so powerful, so brilliant, and so popular that there is an age of time that's named after him. Today we're going to study the Macedonians, and in particular, their great king, Alexander the Great. Now, as we learned in the last section, after the Spartan and the Athenian War, the Peloponnesian War, had left the Greeks so ravaged that they were open to attack from outside people. Well, in a kingdom to the north, the Macedonians, King Philip was gathering together an army to invade the rest of Greece. And he used an army attack style called the phalanx, where he would line soldiers up in huge rows with gigantic poles, and then they would just march and literally mow down the competition. Philip's first line of business was to take over Greece, which he did pretty easily. And then from there, he was going to march his soldiers into Persia. However, that never happened for him because he was murdered in 336 BC. So the duty of the future conquest fell to his son, Alexander. One interesting thing about Alexander is Alexander's personal tutor was the great philosopher, and many people feel is the smartest man who ever lived, named Aristotle. Interestingly, Alexander and Aristotle didn't get along very well. Alexander just thought that learning all this knowledge for the sake of knowledge wasn't really all that important. He was more concerned with getting out on the battlefield and conquering people. After conquering the Greeks, Alexander's first line of business is to battle his old nemesis, the old Greek nemesis, the Persians, led by their leader Darius III. And using brilliant military tactics, Alexander basically conquered the entire Persian army. He then marched his army across the deserts all the way into India. He circled back around, conquering everything in between. And by the time that he got to Egypt, he was already so famous and so well respected that the Egyptians didn't even put up a fight. They said, "We already know that you are going to be the chosen king. Just, you can come in and take the throne." And that's when they moved the capital city to the main port on the north of Egypt, fittingly called Alexandria. While attempting to conquer the rest of India, Alexander, while in Babylon, was plagued. He was bitten by a mosquito and contracted malaria, which eventually led to his death. It's kind of interesting. I remember one of my students said, "So you mean to tell me this man who nearly conquered the entire world was killed by a fly?" Yeah, pretty much. Now, after the death of Alexander, his armies that were still stationed in Egypt and Jerusalem and parts of Persia and India, they continue to spread Greek culture. This is what's known as the Hellenistic culture, or to be Hellenistic is to be like the Greeks. And all of this around the world was spread because of Alexander. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why the Jewish people expelled the Greek Hellenistic leaders from Jerusalem was because of all the Greek influence that was starting to take shape in their communities. Interestingly, even the Romans in the future, when they came and attacked and conquered the Greeks, they said that the Greek culture was so powerful, and as evidenced by the fact that the Romans took the Greeks' science, their theater, and especially their gods. One of the Roman leaders said, "We set out and conquered Greece, but I'm starting to wonder if the Greeks actually wound up defeating Rome."